Okay. You know how you know this week's Parsha, how many Makot there are?
Yeah, from the name of the Parsha.
Vair at Vav Aleph and Vair is base Aleph. So there's three. Arbe, Choshech, and Makat Bechores. Okay. So it's not such a long Parsha, but it is. I mean, it's not short, but it's how many psukim is it? 105. But yeah, last week was 121. Three Makkahs, and Arba is a bit more at length. We also have the first mitzvah that they formally were given. We'll see later. But it starts off, Vayem Hashem Moshe Boy El Parai. Boy El Parai. There's a problem already with this first pasuk. Hashem said to Moshe, come to Para. What does it mean, come to Para?
Right, before he said Lech.
Should go to Para, yeah. What does it mean, come to Para? Come to Para. So the Zohar already asked this question. The Zohar says in this week's Parsha, why does it say boy? It should say Lech. Lech, go to Para. The Zohar answers typical like the Zohar, very cryptically. But he's basically trying to say that come to Para inside of yourself. That means Api Kabbalah, it's very deep, but Moshe was a model. He was a person that was able to find the light in the darkness. So, for example, Moshe didn't grow up in Goshen with the Jews. He grew up in the house of Para, in the darkness. It was fancy, but it was dark spiritually, and he had to come from there to himself find his brothers. And then he could do the same for the Jewish nation. He took the Jewish nation out of Egypt, which was the depths of the earth at the time, to go to receive the Torah. So Moshe is a character, a special leader, the first leader we had, but the special leader that is able to find the darkness and turn it into light, or to extract. That was it. Now, what all of that means is that Moshe had to be able to find the darkness inside of himself before he found the darkness inside of Mitzrayim to take the Jews out. So Boy al-Parai, the Zohar alludes to the fact that it's saying, come inside of yourself. And another explanation they bring, by the way, we don't have time to talk about it, but really Moshe could be a whole topic in and of itself, because Moshe, we'll see when he got to Eretz Yisrael, he wasn't allowed in. Because his purpose and the type of leader he was to take the good from the bad. Israel was good and good. A good nation, Jews, in a good place. So that wasn't Moshe's. Moshe needed to give that to Yeshua. Yeshua was a person that grew up all the time good. It says Yeshua, Na'ar layomish b'techayel. He was a young boy already, learning all day with Moshe. Why did that have to be Yeshua? Because Yeshua was a leader of pure good. All good. A all good leader is a leader that never dealt with challenges and struggles, right? Of course, he had a little bit, but he didn't really. Therefore, that was the right leader for Israel. When you have a good people in a good place, that was Yeshua. Moshe wasn't that. Moshe was the leader that was an expert at taking a challenge, taking darkness, and finding the light inside and taking it out.
So this is harder.
Much harder, yeah. He did it in his own life. And whether it be in Mitzrayim, from the king's palace to find his brothers, whether it be in Midian, being chased to go to Midian because they wanted to kill him in Egypt, and then again extracting himself from Midian. Who did he marry? He married the daughter of Kohen Midian, right? Sipporah, the daughter of Israel, who was the high priest. Why did he have to marry the daughter of the priest? Because that was his ability. He had an ability like Shlomo Melech tried to do. To go into the idol worship, to go into the darkness and extract Tzipporah and extract the light. And he ends up, he has such an influence, he has an influence on Yisro as well. But if you look at Moshe's life, that's always what he's doing. That he comes down from the mountain and the Jewish people are serving an idol. And he has to, once again, find the light inside of that and turn the situation around that Hashem doesn't wipe out the Jewish people. So that's who Moshe is. So Moshe is a leader of Boy El Parai. Boy, they say is 2 and 1. Boy, base Aleph. Base is like is the almost the negative, like it's the double. And Aleph is Elokah, Kilu Echad, Hashem. He takes the 2 and he finds the 1. That's what Moshe is as a leader. So Boy El Parai is Hashem saying to Moshe, go inside of yourself to Para and extract the goodness, because that's what you're going to need to do with Para. You're going to need to go inside the palace and find the good side and advocate for the Jewish people. Then you're going to have to do the same for the Jewish people to get them out of Egypt. So,
could it be, Rabbi, also that it's talking about Paro? It means that this Makot, they're going to hit Paro inside him. So it means like the last one, Makat Bachot is inside him. It's like,
right.
I mean, go and hit the inside of Paro.
Go inside Para.
That could be also, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Another explanation.
Okay.
No, it's a cuff. It's one of these cuffs that stays forever.
Nudnik, we say in Hebrew.
Nudnik, yeah.
Nudnik.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's interesting. Hashem is saying to Moshe that it's going to be a big challenge to him. כי אני הכבדתי את ליבו.
Yeah. So I actually heard a different explanation connected to that. Yonah Barger told me this explanation. It's a very nice idea. Come to Paro. Hashem, it doesn't say go to Paro, it says come to Paro. Like as if Hashem saying, Paro is part of me. What does that mean? Answer is Paro was part of him. Because the Rambam and the Pasuk, based on the Pasuk says that Hashem took away free will from Paro. That means there was a plan that had to happen. 10 plagues. And after plague number 3 already, Paro is saying, oh, go. So Hashem had to ikhbadti et libo, which means that Moshe wasn't talking to Paro anymore. He's talking to Hashem, because Hashem doesn't take away free will. The Rambam talks about this a lot. How we all have free will. If I choose to kill somebody, I choose to kill somebody, and that's my choice, and that's why I'm punished for it, because I chose. He said there's a very few exceptions ever, and one of the exceptions is Paro. Hashem took away his free will. That means he became part of Hashem, in a sense. That means Hashem said, now you're my puppet. Yeah. Now I'm going to tell you exactly how to act. So Hashem telling Moshe, come to Paro, come here, because I am Paro. I'm telling Paro what to do. He's my puppet. He's an actor in my movie.
So can come with me.
So come to me, because I'm telling Paro what to do. Paro is now an extension of me. He's now a pawn in my game of chess. I'm dictating what he does. The Rambam will be the first one to tell you that everybody else, even though Hashem creates everything and created the world and created us, but we have free will to decide what we do. So Hashem almost says, go do what you want, in a sense. That's the way the Rambam writes it. It's a Rambam in the 8th chapter of his introduction to Pirkei Avot. So that's, in a sense, what normally happens. But in this case, a very unique case, the Rambam says only a few times it happened in history. Hashem took away his free will. That means he's not his own person. He's an extension of Hashem. So Hashem's saying, Baal Paro, come to me, come to Paro, come over here, because I'm telling Paro how to act.
Because I think, Rabbi, God, Hashem can stand and let us do whatever we want until a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that, because if he would let go, he would destroy completely the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So, like Hitler, okay?
Yeah.
The same thing. So, in a certain point, God intervened.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. But we see, even with people like Hitler, Hashem didn't take away their free will. They had free will, and we know what they did. So for him to intervene, it must be very serious. And actually, you could argue that Pasuk Beis says why Hashem intervened. Pasuk Beis says, I hardened his heart. Why? Why did I harden his heart? The Pasuk says, because I wanted to make the miracles in his midst, in the midst of his nation, in the midst of Egypt. And he says, carries on. Why did I harden his heart? Why did I harden his heart? Because I needed the script. I needed this movie to follow the script. I needed it to happen how I planned it, says Hashem. And I planned it that there'd be 10 plagues because it's not just good enough one plague, and it's not just good enough a small plague. They got to be big plagues. There's got to be splitting of the sea. It's not good enough for him to say, Jews get out, because that wouldn't be a good story. We need to have a story to tell our children on Pesach and throughout the year, and every time we say in Kiddush, Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim, and every time we say in Shema, Man Tizkar, to remember leaving Egypt. Why? Because leaving Egypt had to be a big story.
Right.
It had to be a story that we're going to tell our kids, and we're going to talk about forever. And therefore Hashem says it had to be a big story. And therefore, I hardened his heart.
Right, and we should see that in the last one, okay, Makat Bechorot, there was no conditions anymore. Before he said, oh, you go live like the sheep, the cattle as before. So now go. And that's the full surrendering. And I think that's the full victory of the Jewish people and the God.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah. Okay, and ultimately the point of all of it is, V'yadatem ki ani Hashem, you'll know that I am Hashem. That means there's going to be times of darkness, and we're going to forget. So we need to have at least a very strong story that we can hold on to.
And also at this time, at this stage that the Jewish people are creating themselves as a nation, we needed those miracles. Like today, the miracles, there are miracles, but they are more hidden.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, that's we needed, because when you're not close to Hashem so many years, to verify that Hashem exists, you need this, that otherwise you can't explain. When you see this, it's only from a God, okay?
Right.
Those miracles.
Right. It's two things. Number one, it's a strong foundation. You want to build a tall building, you need a strong foundation. If you want to build a nation with strong emunah,
Right.
you need a strong foundation. The other thing is, you recognize what you've seen before. That means, let's say you've seen someone before, and then you see them from far away. You kind of recognize them. It's not clear, but you can. I think that's John, because you saw John yesterday. If you didn't see John yesterday, if you never saw him before, you wouldn't recognize him, right? And so the same goes for miracles, and the same goes for Hashem. How do we see Hashem? Whether it's talking about seeing Hashem in the War of Independence, in the Six-Day War, 1967, Yom Kippur, in the recent wars and beating Hezbollah. How do we see Hashem? Well, if we never saw Hashem, then we say, oh, maybe just by chance they managed to do all the amazing things they did. But because we saw Hashem, we now recognize how Hashem works. So we can say, I saw Hashem, and therefore this is Hashem again. So it's both of those things part of why it's so important, the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
Moshe and El Parai. Moshe and Aaron came, and you'll see, by the way, I think it's the Yismach Moshe who explains. He brings a fascinating question. Rashi early on said that sometimes it says Moshe Aaron, sometimes it says Aaron Moshe. Like, why don't you just stick with the order? Either you say Aaron u Moshe because Aaron was older, or you say Moshe and Aaron because Moshe was greater, but just choose an order. So the Medrash says that Moshe and Aaron, it flips around the order to tell you that they're both the same important. Right? Moshe and Aaron, both the same important. And they ask a question, what do you mean? How can you say Aaron was the same important as Moshe? Moshe was like the greatest leader we ever had. We know that the Pasuk itself says how humble he was. The Pasuk itself says there'll never be another prophet like Moshe. How can you say that Aaron and Moshe were equal? How does that make sense? See, as Moshe explains that what it means they were equal is they used their potential equally to the fullest. That means even though Moshe was, of course, closer to Hashem, he could talk to Hashem, so to speak, almost face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the greatest prophet to ever live. And he received the Torah and everything. And Aaron was also great, obviously. He was a high priest, a Kohen Gadol, everything. But that just because Moshe was holier doesn't mean he was greater. That means doesn't mean he's getting a bigger portion in Olam Haba. It doesn't mean that he's going to get more reward. Because true greatness is not about what you achieve. It's about how much you use what you have. If I give you $1,000 and I give you $10,000 and I say go and invest it, and you both come back with $5,000, right? You can't say, oh, we both achieved $5,000. We're the same. No, because you started with $1,000. You started with $10,000. So you lost money and you made money. So it's about using the kochot, the potential that we have. So says the Yismach Moshe that the same goes for Moshe and Aaron. How can you say that Moshe was the greatest leader, greatest prophet, most humble person, but also Aaron was equal? The answer is very simple. Because they both used their potential full. Moshe had a huge potential and he used it the fullest. Aaron had a huge potential but smaller, and he also used it fullest. They both became great, and therefore they're both considered equally great. So it's not about the results, it's about what we're using potential.
Very nice.
I would say that if it was written simply, it would be with the tropes, ויבוא משה ואהרון, ויבואו משה ואהרון, but we have here, ויבוא משה ואהרון. It's like, they're like equal, and ויבוא משה ויבוא אהרון,
Became equal.
it's simply I look just now at the tropes, and
Nice.
we can see sometimes the tropes they're giving their own.
Yeah. So I'll tell you two things. Number one, that about your point that Vayavom Moshe, it's not plural. So many times it says Vayavom Moshe, and it doesn't say Aaron, even though Aaron was there. The Ibn Ezra says that every single time Moshe went to talk to Paro, Aaron was with him. Every time, because Moshe couldn't speak properly. Aaron was the interpreter. Every single time. But it doesn't always say Aaron was there. Why? Because he says it's not always important that Aaron was there, because, the idea was Moshe was communicating through Aaron too. In this case, because Aaron is going to be the one who's performing this Makkah, and because he's part of the story, we'll see later on he comes back, therefore his name is mentioned. But his name is not always mentioned, even though he's always there.
Yeah, but Rabbi, I just want to say this is very popular, in the Torah that you see. For example, I just flipped, page 312. If you go to 312, page, Pasuk 29, Vayelech Moshe ve'Aaron. Again, so the singular, it doesn't mean that this is singular.
Yeah. So about the singular, you could say that they went together. Almost. We know that Aaron was never jealous of Moshe. He was always equal with him, and they went together. In the end of in the story of the Akedah, when it says Vayechu Shneim Yachtav, then Rashi says that they went together, Avraham and Yitzchak, even though Yitzchak knew he was going to be killed.
Right.
He was going to be the Akedah. They were going to go up together.
Right.
But one last thing I'll say, which is some people even ask a contradiction in the Rambam, because the Rambam in one place says, as we know, one of the 13 principles of faith, Yud Gimel Ikre Emunah, is that there'll never be a prophet as great as Moshe. And then in another place, when he talks about personal growth in Midot, he says that every person can be as great as Moshe. And that's a contradiction. You said it never can be like Moshe, but you're saying every person can be great as Moshe. And he used the same answer, what I told you before, that of course you can never achieve what Moshe achieved. Nobody can ever stand on top of a mountain, receive the Torah, talk to Hashem like Moshe did. But you can become great like Moshe because you can achieve your full potential the same as Moshe achieved his full potential. So that's really the message of this. Okay.
I also, Rabbi, I just want to say one more sentence, please. The parak started by Yomer Hashem El Moshe. God is talking to Moshe. And here, in Pasuk Gimel, we say, Vayavo Moshe v'Aaron. So maybe Moshe is the one who initiated the whole thing. He came to Aaron and told him. So that's Vayavo Moshe kind of to Aaron, and together they went.
True. Yeah. But like I said, sometimes it's the other way around. See if I can find an example of it. But sometimes there's Vayavo Aaron or Moshe. Like, Aaron and Moshe came. Trying to see if I can find an example. Well, we'll see it as we go along through the...
Yeah, you probably will see that,
Yeah. And sometimes we see very clearly that Hashem told Moshe, speak to Aaron. Emor Lan kach matzcha, take his stick and everything.
Yeah.
Moshe Aaron. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if we can find examples. Okay. Continuing. And they said to him, כה אמר Hashem Elokei ha'ivrim. The God, the supreme leader, the God of the Jews, the Hebrews. Until when do you refuse to see my presence, to answer to the calling, of all these plagues? He's been through already 7 plagues. Shalach ami ve'avduni, send my people and let them serve me. So this was a very simple message that was being sent. Interesting, they use the word le'anot, not to answer, but to be humbled. Because the word ani, which means a poor person, can also mean in Hebrew to be. It's like the Aramaic word. Rashi brings it. To be humble.
Yeah, we say anav in Hebrew.
Right.
Anav, it's somebody who is modest.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Anav, ani. I never thought about how close those words are, but yeah, anav, ani. So in this case, le'anot doesn't mean to answer. It means, according to Rashi, it means to be humbled. According to according to the Targum Onkelos as well, to be humbled, which basically shows what the purpose of this is. And Paro is being told very clearly what the purpose of all these plagues is. Not to get the Jews out. Hashem could send helicopters. That's not a problem. What we need is we need Paro to be humbled. To be humbled. And Hashem is saying very clearly this message to Moshe and Aaron. Be humbled already. Like why are you not being humbled? Shalach ami ve'avduni. Send my people and serve me. And now he warned him about the 8th Makkah, the 8th plague. Ki im ma'en atal shalach atami. If you refuse to send my people, hineni mevi machar arbe b'gvulecha. I will bring locusts in your borders. It'll be a big locust swarm that will swarm the entire border. I always love how the word arbe has to do with the word larov, many, because that's the definition of a locust. The plague of locusts is, by definition, when you have a lot of locusts. If you have 1 locust, no one cares, and they'll eat it. But,
I remember when I was a child, I will never forget this. There was a plague of arbe in Israel.
Really?
We used to live in 4th grade in Tel Aviv, and they covered the whole porch. I will never forget this.
Really?
Yeah, but it was for a short time.
They ran away.
It wasn't the plague. It was very hot, and they came from the desert, so it was short.
Wow.
But you're right, Rabbi. Arbe also could be not here is a noun, but you say arbe et zaracha.
The same spelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the show, the same shorish. Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. V'chisa es ein haaretz. It will cover. Says Rashi, mar'eh haaretz. It will cover like the appearance of the land. You won't be like your porch in Tel Aviv. You're not going to be able to see the floor. You'll not be able to see the floor. Right? It's going to cover the floor. You're not going to be able to see the floor.
Right.
It's interesting why it's double, almost like a repetition. It's going to cover it, and you're not going to be able to see it. Well, obviously, it's going to cover it. Okay. It's going to eat.
I love this one, Rabbi. It's a little reminder for the other plague, okay? So if it wasn't enough now.
Right, everything that's left over from the barad is going to be eaten by the arba, and also the trees. That means the bigger pieces that went destroyed by the barad, because the barad didn't affect anything that was soft. It was only affected what was hard, because it cracked and broke. But this is going to affect even those things that are soft. So it is interesting, this passage, because it's whenever it came to explaining what the plague was, it was always explained to them very, very clearly. It's going to cover the ground. You're not going to be able to see the ground. It's going to eat the extra, what's left over from the barad, and it's going to eat all the everything that grows. It was very, very clear. Like, we're giving you a warning. Not all the plagues, there was a warning. 1 in every 3 there wasn't a warning. But when there's a warning, it's very clear about what's going to happen. He's not finished yet, but you just see how clear Hashem is telling them to be ומלאו בתיך ובתי כל עבדיך ובתי כל מצ'ם אשר לא ראו בתיך והרבוס בתיך מיום היוסם על אדמה עד היום הזה. It's going to fill your houses, pasuk vav, and the house of all your servants, and the house of all of Egypt. Asher lo ra'a b'secha. Your ancestors never saw this, and your grandparents never saw this from when they were here until today. Vayifen vayetze me'im para. And then they turned, again, singular. Not vayifnu.
I'm sorry.
No, right? Vayifen vayetze. He turned and he left. So he just, he and Aaron, they left very abruptly. He wanted them, the Ramban says, to think about what they just heard. And, you know, he was hoping, you know, sometimes when you want to leave an impact, you know, you're like, you say a message and you leave. No time for questions. You know, I don't know if you ever noticed, whenever the president announces like a very, very big event, like they killed the head of ISIS, they killed Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden, they come, they announce it, and they leave. No time for questions. It's a big announcement. Think about it, and I'll take questions tomorrow. Moshe and Aaron, the same thing. They came in, it's going to be a plague, it's going to eat your house, it's going to come in your house, the servants, and then they left. So they knew.
So strength.
Very strength, yeah. They turned, it says they turned and they left. Oh, I turned and left. It's like, obviously they turned and left. They turned and left for impact. And they knew, and they were right, that the servants of Paro, they didn't have libam, their heart wasn't hardened by Hashem. So they're going to talk to Paro and be like, oh, please, you know, this guy's been right 7 times already. That's exactly what happened in the next pasuk, in pasuk Zayin.
Interesting, Rabbi, they are using the word Hashem, you know? Did they recognize Hashem at that moment? It says, "Vayavdu et Hashem." Maybe they are just saying the name.
Yeah. Hashem, their God. Yeah.
I think after that, Makat Bechorot, he will recognize.
Right, but
Hashem.
you should know, even back at the Kinim, in the plague of Kinim, they said Etzba Elokim, who is the finger of Hashem.
They said Ezba Elokim or Ezba Hashem?
Ezba Elokim.
Elokim.
That means, I'm saying, they already recognize an existence of a God. Yeah.
Not Hashem, right?
Not Hashem.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Elohim. They say Hashem Elohim.
No, so the reason why it's Hashem is because the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is the name of mercy, and this is now they're talking about the God that the Jewish people are going to serve, not the God who's punishing them.
Exactly.
When they're talking about the lice, then they're talking about the God who's punishing them. It's Elokim. He's the Elokim. The servants of Paro said to him, now pause over there. Imagine you're a servant of Paro. What do you say? You'd think you say, please, I need my crops. Don't, but no, they're blaming Moshe. Even though Moshe's not making it happen. Moshe's the stick. He's telling them it's going to happen. But
reminds me somebody. Hamas.
Right. They think that this is the problem comes from here.
Yeah, of course.
So you also could say that Paro would kill them if he would say, if they would get there and say, Moshe's right, you're wrong. Of course, So they said it very politically correct. Right. They said, Ad mata zelanu mokesh. Until when is this fellow, Moshe, going to be a stumbling block? You could also say, Ad masa zelanu. This, meaning the Jews. Enough, okay, let them go. Like, you really want to go through all of this because Shalach et ha'anashim v'yavdu es Hashem Elokehem. Let's send them. Let them go and serve their God. Haterem teida ki avda mitzrayim. Do you not know? They said to Paro. This is
a good sentence.
Yeah, and today you don't know ki avda mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is lost. We lost our crops. Everything's broken. We had boils. Dam tzvadei akinim arav devesh shchin barad. All of these things. They still got holes in their roof from the barad. And now we're up to Arba. Mitzrayim is lost. Right? So this is actually the one of the few times where they actually say to him very clearly, Paro, your country is lost. So, Vayushav et Moshe et Aaron el Paro. They returned. They summoned them back, Moshe and Aaron, to Paro. Vayomer Alehem, and Paro said to them, and this was the first time this happened. Lachu ivdu et Hashem Elokechem, mi v'mi ha'olachem. He said, okay, enough. Go. You win. you can go serve Hashem. Who's going? Give us the list of who's going. Right? You have to remember, the Jews were slaves. So they had probably a list of everybody, or even if they didn't have a list, they viewed them as these are our people. So you're taking my slaves. Okay, tell me who's going. And he was hoping, I guess, that he would say, Moshe, okay, we'll take the men between 20 and 60, whatever it is, and we'll go for a week, we'll come back. But no, that's not what Moshe said. Moshe said, Moshe, bin areinu ubiz kinenu nelech. We'll go with the young and with the old. We'll go with our boys and our girls. But with our cattle, with our sheep. Ki chag Hashem lanu, because it is a festival for Hashem. So he's like, aha. So it wasn't obviously what he was expecting. Actually, there's a cute pshat I saw over here. He says, Ki chag Hashem lanu. What chag was it? It wasn't a chag. I mean, this was probably, we know it was about a few weeks before Pesach, because that was when this happened. There's no chag, was it? Purim obviously wasn't. Well, what was the chag? What do you mean, Ki chag Hashem lanu? So obviously the literal explanation is that we're going to make a chag. If you let us go, we're going to celebrate, we're going to make a chag, But I saw a cute idea that he said when all the Jews go together, young and old, that's a chag. Normally, you come to shul and everybody's old, or everybody's young. And the young people don't want to sit next to the old people. The teenager doesn't want to sit next to his father. If they would have gone with the young and the old, that was already a chag. So it's a cute idea. Chassidish thought. But anyway, so that's what Moshe said. And sure enough, Paro wasn't happy. Paro wasn't happy with that. And he said to them, he tried two things. First of all, he said to me, Hashem imachem, kasher shalach eschem v'stapchem, ru'u ki ra'a neged pneichem. He said, even if I send you with the children, with everything, you're going to need Hashem with you because there's bad. My astrologers are looking in the stars, says Rashi, and they see that there's a bad sign, the simon of blood, of Odom. They saw a star that is the star of blood. Now, this just refers to when the Jews later on worshipped the Egel, and Hashem wanted to kill them all. So they saw that it's not going to be easy. There's going to be problems. So he was trying to convince him, not only I don't want you to go, you shouldn't want to go. That was number one.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to help you. That's number one. And then he says, and besides the fact, I don't let. He said, no, let the men go. Let the men go. Because that's what you want. You were asking, let's go and offer sacrifices. Generally, women and children didn't offer sacrifices in those days. So you yourself asked me to offer sacrifices. You didn't say chag. Now you said chag. Last time you said to me, lechu v'nizbacha. So Paro said to them, if you want to go lizbach, okay, fine. But that's normally what the men do. So you're changing it. He's saying you're moving the goalposts. Before you told me you just want the men because you want to do sacrifice. Now you're saying a chag and you want everybody to go. So let the men go. He said, I'll let the men go. And then he kicked him out. He kicked him out. He said, get out of here. There was no negotiation. Obviously, Moshe didn't agree. Paro, so there's an end of negotiation. It's like Greenland. No negotiation.
Honestly, Rabbi, I see what's happening now in the world, okay, without all our enemies that are standing against Israel and against us. So there are people that you cannot negotiate with them, okay? And that's exactly. The moment that you have such an enemy, he needs to fully surrender. Otherwise, there's no way.
100%. 100%. We don't see Moshe negotiating at all. Not one point. And it's 100% true. I was thinking about this the other day. When I was growing up as a kid, we always knew Israel had a policy, you don't negotiate with terrorists. Right? You remember this? Israel, everybody knew. Israel, you don't talk to terrorists. Once you talk to them, then they kidnap more, they murder more because they know that you're listening to them. And the biggest mistake we ever made was when we started talking to terrorists. We started talking to the Palestinians, we started talking to Hamas, we're going to give you this land, we're going to give Fatah the land, we're going to give Palestinian Authority this, we're going to give money to this. That was the biggest mistake we ever made because it shows weakness. And also, it shows them that if you take a hostage, we're going to talk to you and we're going to give you so much. Let's take even more hostages.
Right.
And now they're for sure planning to take as many as they possibly can. That's the biggest mistake you can ever make. They only speak one language, and that's the language of bombs. They speak that language, and when you talk that language, like we see now, they be very quiet because suddenly you're not negotiating with them anymore.
Exactly.
And I mean, we all saw what happened after 2005 when they gave back Gaza, how that was the biggest mistake to happen in Israel in its entire history.
Exactly.
Not even a question. Why? Because they saw that, these people are weak. They're going to give us. We just need to talk to them. We have to, and you give them legitimacy. There's a million reasons why. You have to be like in Tebi. You go in, you take your people, you go out. And here's what people don't understand, and the world more and more struggles with nowadays. They don't see the bigger picture. They don't see the bigger picture. That means
they don't see the picture at all.
They don't see a picture at all. But they see a picture which is like, okay, there's a hostage. So let's give back 1,000 terrorists because we need the hostage back. Yeah, but what about later? No, I'm thinking about now. It's now we never used to be like this. Our parents, grandparents, they always talk about the bigger picture. We call it short-term pain for long-term gain. And it's brought in Mishnah. This is why you're not allowed to redeem captives, because you might gain now, but you don't gain in the long term.
Exactly.
And we saw what happened now. They took hostages, they took hundreds of hostages, and we had to give back thousands of terrorists. And thank God, hopefully we're going to eradicate Hamas one day. But this all comes from a position of not seeing, since 2005, whenever it is, we don't see the big picture anymore. We became weak. Tough people used to be able to see that. Okay, a little bit of pain. We lost someone. The Marami Rottenberg was a typical example of this. He lived about 800 years ago, just before the time of Rashi.
What's his name?
Marami Rottenberg. He was taken captive by the Christians. They wanted to hold him as like a ransom, and he refused to let anybody ransom him, redeem him. Right, he refused to let, because he knew the Mishnah in Gittin that says, ein podim es hashvurim, yes, al k'tedim, you don't pay more than they're worth. And just because he's the leader of the generation, doesn't mean he's worth more. He's worth the same amount as any worker. And therefore, they wanted a huge amount of money. He ended up dying he had very wealthy people willing to bail him out. But he ended up dying after 7 years. He was writing still his farm. So 7 years in captivity. And I think a year or two after that, they redeemed his body and they buried him. But it was a very powerful, after that, they didn't really detain anyone. It was a very powerful reminder. But that's how it's supposed to be. Not the parents saying, give up more terrorists for my kids to get out. You're supposed to say, I know it's difficult, but keep me here. Keep me here. That's why in Israel, they have this thing where soldiers now, apparently, they're given like a pill or an instruction. If they get taken captive, it's better to get taken dead than alive. Now, without going into the halachic questions, I'm not sure it is better to commit suicide, but the fact to redeem is also a question. Now, redeeming a soldier is different to redeeming a regular person, by the way, just because if you don't redeem soldiers, the soldiers don't want to fight. So therefore, it could be that you redeem a soldier, but you don't redeem a regular person. A regular person, fine. It's sad, but at least now they're not going to take more people. A soldier, if you don't redeem a soldier, then the whole morale, the whole army, they don't want to go. You're going to tell them, go into Lebanon, go into Syria, go into Gaza and fight. No, because if I get captured, you're not going to look after me. That makes them feel sad. Mm-hmm. So it could be, halachically, there's a difference. That means there are exclusions to this rule. But the point is that this generation nowadays is losing this ability to be tough, to make tough choices, to be. But anyway, this is a reality.
רבי, בא לי מחשבה שהפסוקים האלה כאן, הם בעצם אומרים שעבודת השם שלמה יכולה לעשות רק עם כולנו, הנערים, הנערות, הנשים, האנשים, הזקנים, כולנו ביחד. לא, כן, יש את ההלכות האלה שאני למדתי שגבר חייב להתפלל, אישה לא חייבת וכן הלאה, אבל כדי שהכל יהיה באמת שלם, צריך את כולם.
Yeah. This is part of the beauty of Shabbat and Yom Tov. It's all the time, the whole family, everybody together. Everybody, B'narenu, B'skanenu, B'vanenu, B'vnatenu. This is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of it. Yeah.
That's specifically for the Jewish people, your community. Like you don't see it in Christianity, like there everybody's for himself.
Yeah.
Okay, we have this connection that even if you don't feel you are connected.
Yeah. It's actually more than that. It's funny because in Judaism there's three sections. There's a section of your own Judaism, a section of your community, and a section of your family.
Mm.
And each of these have a different role.
Mm.
There's actually, the Kiddush that we do over here in Shul, and in every Shul. So recently we started washing and having a meal. We thought about it a long time before we did it. Why? Because really, a Shabbat meal is supposed to be at home with your family. That's the way it's supposed to be. That means, halachically, you can have a meal anywhere. 2 chalot, you can have a meal on top of a mountain, you can have a meal with your community, wherever you want. But the structure of Shabbat is that it has all three components. It has prayer, which is by ourselves. It has community, afterwards, or like Kiddush without washing. And then there's meals. Meals are supposed to be family. And sometimes guests go to people's houses. But yeah. So we thought about it a long time before adding the roles, because we thought, like, maybe this will stop people going home to have a meal at home. And he's supposed to have a meal at home. He sings a mirah with the family, etc. In the end, we chose to do it because we thought more people will have a meal and we'll make the Kiddush nicer, more people will come to shul, whatever it is. But it just explains the sensitivity behind it, because there is a certain role to family, and there's a role to the individual, and there's a role to community. You don't want to get them all confused. But anyway. But yes, we do see this beauty in An Narenu Zkanenu, Banenu, Bibnatenu, B'tanenu, B'karenu. We should bring the animals too, can you imagine? Shabbos Kiddush, we have the young, the old, the men, the women, the animals, the dogs, the cats.
Shunt b'sari.
Too much. They had a shaila once in yeshiva many years ago in Gateshead that a cat fell in the challah. They had a massive challah, and the kitchen was closed, and a cat snuck in and fell in the challah. They wanted to know if the challah was still kosher. So you talk about it. Anyway. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. So Hashem told Moshe. It's actually Moshe was the one who did it, not Aaron. But Aaron took part. But Hashem said to Moshe, "Natei yadcha al eretz Mitzrayim, v'arbe v'ya'al al eretz Mitzrayim, v'yechal et kol esav haaretz et kol asher hishir habarat." Hashem said to Moshe, "Stretch out your arm on Mitzrayim, and Arba is going to come, and it's going to rise on the land of Mitzrayim." We'll see later on how it comes in. But it rose over and then it landed. And again, it's going to be very clearly to get rid of everything that wasn't taken care of in Barad. The Makos got closer and closer to home. It means it became more and more difficult, each and every one. Even Dam, which sounds bad, they had no water, but they could buy water, So they didn't die 7 days. They had water. They would have died otherwise. So even with Barad, it starts off some of the produce, and now the rest of the produce, because it's getting tougher and tougher.
Exactly, as we said at the beginning of the class, like the ball maybe could be also come to inside of Bao. So they're coming closer to his inside.
Get closer and closer to him, and then we'll see later he gets close as possible. In Makkos B'charetz, Vayet Moshe es Mateo al Eretz Mitzrayim, V'Hashem niag ruach kadem ba'aretz kol hayom ahu v'chol halayla, haboker haya v'ruach hakadem estes arba. So Moshe sticks out his stick, and there was a easterly wind.
Yeah.
That whole day, that whole night, and the next morning when they woke up, they saw that this easterly wind was carrying the arba, and it's funny that even though Hashem is doing these amazing miracles, they're happening as much as possible in a natural way. Like he could have just caused locusts to appear.
Yeah.
Could have woken in the morning and there could have been locusts. Why did it have to be that the wind brought them in, which is a very natural way of locusts coming? Hashem was, again, making it show that even nature is being shown, is being controlled by Hashem. So that was the way. Okay. These Arba, they went all over the land of Mitzrayim. They rested over the whole land of Mitzrayim. So basically, it was like two stages. It covered, and then they all came down. Covered ma'id. It was very heavy. Never before and never afterwards will there ever be such thick locusts. It means there will be locusts. The locust plagues all the time. But there'll never be so much. It covered the entire floor. It made the land very dark because they were blocking the sun. It's called Esav. They ate all the vegetation. It's called Priya Eitz, and all the fruits on the tree that the bird left over. And there was nothing left. There was literally nothing left. So, in short, success. And again, for the 8th time, Moshe promised something would happen. He said exactly what was going to happen. And exactly that happened. Vayamahe Parai, and Parai quickly called Moshe and Aaron, and he said, Chatasi l'Hashem l'keichem v'lachem. He said, I sinned to Hashem, your God, and to you. Right? Parai, you should know, was the type of person that liked to pretend humans were Hashem. He thought he himself was God, or at least he wanted to pretend he was. That's why he went to the Nile in the morning, because he didn't want people to know he went to the bathroom. So he's like, I sinned to God and to you, as if the Moshe and Aaron are equal to Hashem. And obviously not, but it's Vata now. Sana chatasi achapam. Just this time, forgive me. Va'atur Hashem ekechem, pray. V'yasser me'alai rakas hamav hazeh. And all I ask from you, all, is to remove this death, which is this giant locust swarm, which was still there. I think they'd already finished eating everything, but they were still there. Vayetze me'im parai. So they left again. But he left Parai. Vayetar Hashem. And he davened in Hashem. This is talking about Moshe. Hashem ruach yam chazak ma'id. Hashem turned the wind around. He changed the east wind, which brought the locusts. That very wind became a west wind, and it blew them away. And it hurled them towards the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds. This is a miracle in and of itself. There was not even one locust left. This is a massive miracle, because the Egyptians would eat locusts, so they pickled many of the locusts. They put them inside closed jars, and miraculously they all escaped, these dead locusts, and they were gone. So the Egyptians didn't even get to eat them afterwards, any of them. So this is part of the reason, when we read the Pesach Haggadah, it says every Makkah had 5, miracles inside of it. What does that mean? So, Rabbi Shmuel every Makkah had 5 within there, and then 5 is 50, and then by the sea they saw 250. What does that mean? This is an example. There was one one miracle that they came in, one miracle that they ate everything, another miracle, it doesn't say what they are, but you can imagine one miracle that when they left, even what was inside the jars disappeared. Sure enough, we'll finish over here with the last pasuk. Sure enough, just like the previous 7 times, after they went away, he said, I'm gonna. He toughened his heart, and he did not agree to send them back.
I just want to say something. I just paid attention now that God says to Moshe in Pasuk 12, "Neteh yadcha al eretz Mitzrayim." So with your hand. But Moshe in 13, Pasuk 13, Vayet Moshe et Mateu. And it reminds me that when Moshe hit the rock with the stick, with the Mateh, while God told him with the hand. So why God was so upset there, but not upset here? I never thought about it. I don't want to take from your time, but now I saw that. Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between the 2 cases.
Yeah. Just to add to your question, we see in the very next pasuk, by the way, the next Makkah was no warning. This was the 9th Makkah, so every 3rd Makkah there was no warning. So there was no warning for Choshech. Pasuk Chaf says Hashem told Moshe, "Netei yadecha al hashamayim," and then in Pasuk Chaf Beis, "Vayed Moshe es yadoi al
Yeah, here
hashamayim."
is Yado. Yeah.
Okay, so he was told to use his hand, and he used his hand. Previous case, he was told to use his hand, he used his stick. So again, every third Makkah had a theme: how to use his hand, use his stick. Why he was told to do one thing, he did the other thing, I don't know.
I just never thought that. I don't want to because it's out
Yeah,
of the. Maybe one time we'll talk about. I just was thinking.
Think about it we have to think about that for this week. Yeah,
And
good question.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi. Very nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
I heard there's something about